and welcome to Arizona on the Job. I'm Roman Voskuilen.
And I'm Daniel Quant. Thank you for joining us. Jobs are an important part of life. We're performing our job right now by producing this live show and by entertaining and informing you about the workaday world.
In the upcoming 30 minutes, we're going to highlight 5 different jobs that are performed around northern Arizona. In northern Arizona, the skies are free of most of the light pollution that blocks stargazing in large cities. Flagstaff is a dark sky city, which means that it provides you with an opportunity to watch the stars. Flagstaff is therefore a mecca for stargazing enthusiasts.
Some of these enthusiasts have been able to turn their passion into a profession. Our colleague Amy de Graaf talks to one of these people who is now a telescope engineer at the Lowell Observatory.
In 1894, the American astronomer Percival Lowell founded the Lowell Observatory right here in Flagstaff, Arizona. The mission of this research institution is to pursue the study of astronomy and to maintain the quality of public education. Today we're going to take a look at a day in the life of telescope engineer Ralph Nye. At the age of 12, Nye became interested in astronomy and especially telescopes. Nye says he even moved to Arizona in order to be able to enjoy his passion.
Well, early on, when I was about 12 years old, I used to collect rocks, and we went on rock trips, and one guy had a telescope there at night, and that's what set the ball rolling.
At Lowell Observatory, Nye is responsible for every aspect of technical services, from fixing toilets to designing and making complex telescopes. His day starts off with an hour-long drive from his hometown to Flagstaff. After arriving, he checks his mail to see if there are any instruments that need maintenance, and then continues with his main responsibility, drawing designs for the Lowell instruments.
Yeah, when I was in school, I had drafting courses and mechanical engineering courses, and back then you did everything on two-dimensional drawings on the board with pencil and ink, and that's how I learned, and that's still how I designed after working here for almost 39 years.
Besides making the designs for the instruments of Lowell, Nye also does the mechanical work on the parts of the telescopes. While he mostly works independently, his colleagues in the mechanical workshop help him to take the telescopes apart, restore the parts, and put them back in their place. Currently, Nye's main project is the restoration of the Clark telescope. Lowell Communications Manager Kevin Schindler says this restoration is really necessary.
The Clark telescope was built in 1896, and almost every clear night it's been used either to do research for the first several decades or to carry out educational programs. And with that use, it has just got worn down over time. Gears have worn down, parts and pieces need to be replaced, and if we didn't do that soon, the instrument wouldn't be operational anymore. So we decided last year to take it down for renovation, did a fundraiser to pay for it, and then when it came time to decide who was going to head up this work, the obvious choice was Ralph, because he knows this telescope better than anybody. He's worked on it for countless hours. He knows the intricacies of how it works and what it would take to update it. So having Ralph on staff was critical to making this project work, and he and his team have done an amazing job, well ahead of schedule, and the goal was 2 parts really. One is to make it fully operational. The other is to make it look good, and they've done both of those very well.
Nye says there is nothing he doesn't like about his work at Lowell, and that his job is different every day. Fortunately, Nye has had the opportunity to turn his passion into his profession.
I sold a telescope to buy an engagement ring for my wife, and after we got married, she said, well, why don't you make another telescope? But she didn't know I'd make that big of a telescope, and spent 4 years building it. After I built that, I put an article in Sky and Telescope magazine, and there was a 6-page article in April 1975 issue. And that was part of my resume here at Lowell Observatory.
Because of Ralph's work, we are able to enjoy and to learn about astronomy. For Arizona on the Job, I'm Amy de Graaf.
Now that we've learned more about the details and the work that go into observing stars, let's bring things a little closer to Earth.
Arizona is known for its various landscapes. The state is home to one of the natural wonders of the world, the Grand Canyon.
While many visitors to the Grand Canyon flock to see the view from the rim, only a few see it from the air. Our reporter Romy Blom talks to both a professional and private pilot to learn more about soaring thousands of feet into the sky and seeing only views that few of us get to experience. Let's go!
Welcome to a day in the life of a pilot. Today we're going to get to know what it's like to be a pilot in northern Arizona. We will introduce you to a commercial and a private pilot who both share the passion of flying a plane. First, we're going to take a look here at Grand Canyon Airlines and talk to one of their pilots, Jeff Dunbar. Jeff Dunbar works for Grand Canyon Airlines for about a year now. He started out by taking flying lessons on the weekends and started working as a commercial pilot about 8 years ago.
Typical day for us, we usually show up about 5 o'clock in the morning, 5:15. Our first flight usually goes out about 6 o'clock. So we have about an hour to check the plane, make sure it's ready to go, do our equipment checks on it. Yeah, about 20 minutes before we take off, we head over to the terminal, meet the passengers, head out to the plane, get them all seated, usually take a quick picture with them, and then we do that probably 7 or 8 times a day. It's probably a normal day, about 7 or 8 flights.
It requires good training and good preparation before you are able to fly above the Grand Canyon. That is why private pilots are not allowed to fly above the canyon.
A private pilot is typically somebody who just kind of flies for fun, like on the weekends. Generally, they'll either rent a plane from like a flight school and just, fly around with their friends and family. And then a commercial pilot, like what we do, and airline pilots, it's their living.
You're gone and I gotta stay high all the time to climb all the time to climb all the time to keep you on my mind.
There are also private pilots that are flying across northern Arizona. They fly a plane to enjoy the beautiful view or to maybe even escape reality for a little while. Matt Tantau is one of those pilots. The former NAU student from California followed his childhood dream and got his flying license in 2010. But being a pilot doesn't come without any risks.
A year after I owned the plane, I was flying down to Phoenix, and what happened was my hydraulics for my landing gear, well, I was coming into Phoenix and I went to go put the wheels down, and basically they didn't come down all the way. And so I had to troubleshoot that. I had to then manually pump them down, and then I had to declare an emergency because it wasn't operating correctly, and so I had to land there. And that was a little of a tense situation. I knew the gear was down. I knew everything was going to be okay once I got the gear down.
It's quite expensive to own a plane. The plane needs to meet different requirements and have annual inspections. It costs a lot of money to keep up with the maintenance of the aircraft. That is why there are flight clubs around northern Arizona to make flying affordable.
So there are no flight clubs here in Flagstaff, but Cottonwood, Sedona, and Prescott do have some, and it's really the affordable way to go flying, because what that means is basically 10 people pay for the maintenance and upkeep on the plane, which is a lot more affordable than you doing it on your own. Flying is really fun. For me, I feel like I go up there and I don't have to think about anything else. All I am is focused on flying and looking at the horizon, looking at the land, and flying around.
You're gone and I gotta stay high all the time to climb all the time to keep you on my mind.
For Arizona on the Job, I'm Romy Blom.
Now that's a way to look at the Grand Canyon. What a wonderful and beautiful job, right? Now, let's look at a job that predates the airplanes, when the only way to get around besides your feet was on a horse.
Years ago, cowboys and ranchers used to roam the plains of Arizona. In those days, they gathered, raised, and sold cattle as a way of making a living. But what is it like to be a cowboy or rancher nowadays?
Every year, hundreds of ranchers and their families come together at the Cowpunchers Reunion Rodeo in Williams, Arizona. These cowboys and ranchers compete in the rodeo, but they also enjoy a much-needed vacation. Let's go with Tom Van Zanten to find out more about a rancher's life.
Hi, we're at the 36th annual Cowpunchers Rodeo in Williams, and we're going to find out what a day in the life of a rancher is like. The Cowpunchers Reunion Rodeo is an annual gathering for ranchers all over Arizona to have fun, show off their cattle, and most of all, to compete in the rodeo. But what is it like to be a rancher nowadays? Debbie DeWitt and her husband manage a ranch, and she says an average day in her life begins before the sun comes up.
I'm usually up at 4, hurry up, get up, go out and feed the bunch of my horses that I have and water some things, and then I go run for a couple miles, and then I come back and then I start riding my horses, and then the cowboys come in, they look a little sweaty, we're hungry, what are we eating? So I have to feed all the cowboys, and then all day long it's just messing with horses, doing waters, riding horses. The boys are out gathering cattle, and just it's every day.
But the ranchers have other things on their minds besides eating. Contrary to public opinion, rancher Clancy Goswick also thinks about the physical well-being of his cattle.
Make sure all the calves are looking healthy, and if there's anything sick, we'll catch them and give them their shots wherever they need, so just every day.
Running a ranch does not always go smoothly. Oftentimes, nature has a hand in affecting the lifespan and food and water supply for the rancher's cattle. Extreme droughts, like the one we are experiencing in Arizona right now, causes a low water supply and grass to dry out. This means that the cattle go underfed and therefore brings in less money for the ranchers. Rancher Bad Meat says besides drought, there are other threats to cattle.
Then you deal with the predators, and the predators, they are wiping your calves out left and right, so you got to go hunt them down, kill your bears and lions on depredation hunts and that, and then you got to deal with the government. And that's a major problem in that. And the environmentalists, they think they're doing good, but actually the best environmentalists for the stewards of the land are the ranchers.
Even though there are all kinds of struggles out there for ranchers, cowboys and cowgirls, one thing's for sure, the pros outweigh the cons. Debbie DeWitt believes that a ranch is actually one of the best places to grow up.
Having a ranch life has always been rewarding for the kids. Learn how to work, everybody learns how to work, and you bring them to town and they're little better people because they didn't sit and watch TV and were on computers. They all know how to work. When they've grown up, they can do something.
According to some ranchers, ranch life is also seen as a very connected life. From the minute you wake up, you're in contact with the animals you raise and the beautiful environment that surrounds you.
It's probably the most spiritual life you can be in, being with the animals. It's, you wake up and you get to feel the things they feel. They're so spiritual. Where I live, there's trees all over the rivers there, and it's a real spiritual, uplifting thing with me to be with the animals. You know, it's just, they're great.
Clancy Goswick says ranching is better than any 9-to-5 job.
It's really not a job, it's fun. I love it. So I wouldn't hate being behind a desk all the time. You're outside every day. You're with your horses, you're with cattle, and you're really your own boss. So you kind of get to do what you want and your own way, and love it.
After the cattle are cared for, the families are fed, and the night rolls around. In the end, the ranchers agree that the ranch life is a hard but rewarding one.
It's a busy life. And my friends that come, and I haven't seen them since high school, come and go, you guys work like men. But you know what? It's so good. If you look at some of the people, there's not a whole lot of big fat people. They're working all day long. They're eating good, but they drink a lot, some of them. But other than that, it's a real rewarding life.
Now, it's hard work, but it's worth it. It's dang sure worth it.
For Arizona on the Job, I'm Tom.
Those ranchers sure have an interesting life. I bet they did enjoy a cold beer after a hard day's work.
Well, in Flagstaff, there's a big friendly community of beer brewers. They all work at different breweries, ranging from big to small, but there's one thing they all have in common: a passion for beer. Drinking beer brings people closer together. You may say it creates bonds, but what does it take to create that beer? Our reporter Cynthia van der Linde visits 3 breweries here in Flagstaff to find out what it takes to become a brewer.
I'm standing at the Historic Brewing Company in Flagstaff, Arizona. Today we're going to find out what a day in the life of a brewer looks like. The Historic Brewing Company is the youngest brewery here in Flagstaff. It has been around for 9 months and is on the way to produce 1,000 barrels a year. Currently, there are only 2 brewers employed. Head brewer Ryan Burak says that there is more than one way to become a brewer.
There's a lot of different walks of life that have moseyed on into the brewing industry. Personally, what I did, there's a school called the Siebel Institute of Technology. It's the oldest brewing school in the U.S., which takes place in Chicago. It's actually a 2-continent program, partly in Chicago and then in Munich, Germany.
Being a brewer is not just about drinking and making beer. There's much more to the job.
It's everything from, being a plumber to electrician to being a janitor. Keeping the place really clean is like #1 priority, really. It's not just simply come in and make beer. If it's a brew day, we'll get in real early, sometimes before the sun comes up, and we'll get the grain going there. And if we have to, we'll keg out some beer that day as well, or filter a beer, kind of multitasking, if you will. So it's definitely a team-oriented environment for sure.
Creating beer is an experiment. By varying techniques from different countries, many different beers are possible.
Quality control, we're setting up a lab, so every day I'm learning a little more about that and becoming more of a scientist. There's just such an awesome array of beers from all around the world, really. And here in the U.S., the cool thing about it is that all the brewers here are creating these styles from around the world in traditional manner, but also creating new, exciting styles around here, and the possibilities are really limitless.
What Ryan Burak loves most about brewing beer is seeing customers enjoy the beers he created.
Bringing people together, seeing people enjoying the beers, it really melts your heart, I should say.
A small brewery that has been around Flagstaff for almost 2 years now is Wanderlust. Head brewer Nathan Friedman says that opening a brewery was the next step.
I decided I needed to take it to something bigger or stop and find something else to do because it was taking up a lot of my time.
Working at a brewery is no 9-to-5 job. The brewing process continues 7 days a week, 24 hours a day.
The yeast doesn't care what day it is, and so if the beer is done, we'll come in on the weekends and transfer it or filter it or do whatever needs to be done.
Wanderlust brews a wide variety of beers. They experiment with different ingredients and brewing techniques. By tasting beers from other breweries, they get inspired and create their own new flavors.
We have a pilot system so we can brew 10-gallon batches instead of 100-gallon batches to try stuff out. And I see what else is out there, what other people are doing, and I'll taste a beer and try and figure out how they achieve some flavor.
However, experimenting doesn't always guarantee success.
We've definitely made beers that we've dumped down the drain because we didn't like them. So,
being a brewer does not mean that you are only inside a brewery. Another aspect is going to beer festivals to promote your product and taste the beers of other breweries.
We get some good advertising with it. We get to meet with some other brewers. It's another venue for us to interact with fans of our beer.
Behind me you can see Lumberyard. Lumberyard is the biggest brewery in Flagstaff. Let's check it out. The differences between a bigger brewery like the Lumberyard and a smaller brewery like Wanderlust or Historic Brewing Company are the working hours, number of employees, and the amount of barrels they produce a year.
We do last year about 5,000 barrels of beer, maybe 25 or 28 different kinds of beer.
Instead of the 12 or more hours that smaller breweries work, the employees at Lumberyard work a more traditional schedule. Additionally, the Lumberyard produces almost twice as much beer a year.
We supply beer throughout the whole state of Arizona, and it's in grocery stores, it's in bars, and the convenience stores. It's pretty much everywhere now.
Brewing is not just a job, it's a passion and a hobby. For Arizona on the Job, I'm Cynthia van der Linde.
You know what makes a good beer even better? Some live music to go along with it. I've always wondered what it's like to be a musician. Luckily, we have one of Flagstaff's most noted local singers, Tony Norris, with us today in the studio. Robin?
Thank you, Daniel. We're here with Tony Norris to talk about what it's like to be a musician. Thank you for coming in, Tony. When did you start making music?
I sang as a child, but I got my first instrument when I was 12 years old, I got a guitar.
And when did it start to become a professional career?
I began performing in public in my late teens, I suppose.
All right. And how important is music to you?
Oh, music's very important. It's essential in my life. It's something that I do every day, and many of my relationships involve music.
And did you always want to become a musician?
I don't know that I thought about becoming a musician, but it just happened.
All right. And how much time do you spend on music?
Well, many of my activities are sort of pre-music activities. I study about the history of music, and I think about songs I'm going to write, and I hang out with musicians. So a lot of my activities involve music.
And what do you think makes a good musician?
Oh, I think passion, caring about the music makes a good good musician, more so than just technical ability.
And do you write your own songs as well?
I do write songs.
And how does the process of writing a song goes?
Well, I don't have a single process. Sometimes I will get an idea, just a bolt out of the blue, and then I will write a song quickly. And sometimes I work on a song for weeks or months or even years.
And what does a good song have to have?
I don't know that I'm qualified to answer that, but I think a song that draws you in and either tells you an interesting story or moves you is a good song.
Yeah. And what's your favorite venue to play at in Flagstaff?
In Flagstaff, I really like the Coconino Center for the Arts. It's a very intimate venue. I like that.
And who is your inspiration when you write songs or sing?
Oh, there are many wonderful songwriters. Guy Clark, I guess, is the one that comes to mind, is a man that crafts wonderful songs.
Okay. And what's your favorite genre to sing?
I don't know that there's a single genre that I like. I like acoustic music. I like music that's maybe from the mountains.
All right. And what's something you'd like to achieve for the future?
I would like to sing songs that make you cry or make you laugh.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Tony Norris. And thank you for joining us. We hope you've learned more about some of the jobs across northern Arizona. Now performing live for you, here is Tony Norris with the song The Cuckoo.
Oh, the cuckoo, she's a pretty bird, and she warbles as she flies, but she never hollers cuckoo till the 4th day of July. Gonna build me a log cabin on a mountain so high, so I can see my Willie boy as he goes riding by. Oh, the cuckoo, she's a pretty bird, and she warbles as she flies, but she never hollers cuckoo till the 4th day of July. I've played cards in Winslow, and I've played cards in Spain, and I'll bet you $5 that I'll beat you next game. Oh, the cuckoo, she's a pretty bird, and she warbles as she flies, but she never hollers cuckoo till the 4th day of July. Jack a diamond, I know you of old. You robbed my poor pocket of my silver and my gold. Oh, the cuckoo, she's a pretty bird, and she warbles as she flies, but she never hollers cuckoo till the 4th day of July.